What's going on, guys? Justin Melson here. I create all the content on the Happy Fox Productions YouTube channel, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. I decided I wanted to do something that I haven't actually shown you guys, which is my editing workflow. And as you can tell by how long this video is, this isn't going to be a quick kind of tip video. This is going to be a full-on 20, who knows how long this is going to run, 20, 30 minutes maybe, or less, on how I edit my films. And so basically, if you have some time to kill, just feel free to sit back and watch, or maybe take this as a podcast, maybe. Although you'd probably want to see what I'm doing. So, just basically, the reason why I'm doing this is because one, I've shown my workflow in terms of color grading in my various other videos. I've shown my workflow in terms of how I shoot things. I've shown my film equipment, but editing, the editorial process, is where it all comes together. And I decided, why not just skim through it? If you follow me on social media, you'll see some pictures on my timelines and you'll be like, whoa, that's a lot. But in reality, I'm not proud of this whatsoever. So this is, as you can see, the timeline for the Last Hotspot. This is the final timeline. This is the thing that I rendered out and put on the internet. And the first thing, before I go over my editing, the reason why I feel like this is really informational is because you can really see all the different techniques and all the different takes and all the kind of things that you would never really get to see on a traditional making of. You could see it in an editing making of. So for example, I'll be able to go through and show you guys all the different takes that I liked, all the takes that I didn't like. And first off, I'd recommend watching the film if you haven't watched it yet. You can click it on the screen right now. There should be an annotation. If not, there's a link in the description. So watch the film first. Feel free to study the film if you want. This is a film that I did a couple months ago or 6 months ago. It's called The Last Hotspot. And so you guys can just check that out. So now you'll have a reference to see what I'm talking about when I'm going through with this video. So, and I've seen videos on YouTube that even if they aren't the greatest, to put it nicely, I don't want to sound like I'm degrading someone's art, but let's say if someone's starting out in filmmaking and the video isn't the greatest, just to put it nicely, and I'm still curious to know how they edited it, because no matter how good or bad a video is, I'm kind of curious to know what kind of coverage they had, how good were the actors, how did they film it, it's just interesting to know. So I feel like with this, hopefully it'll be pretty informative to you guys. Now, to start off, I'm here to say that I am not proud of this. This is the most unorganized timeline that you will ever see. If I were to show this to a professional editor, they'd probably slap me and then slap me again. Because, look at this. This is just, I have nests here, nests here, nests here, nests here, just a whole bunch of clutter. My aspect ratio bars, which I shouldn't have even put on. I should have rendered my video in a 240:1 aspect ratio, but instead I baked it into the project, which I shouldn't have done. Oh well. But so this is just, I'm not proud of this. Okay, so the way I go about editing is I'm a bit traditional. I feel like when a film is completely finished, you shouldn't go back and touch it up. I feel like once it's done, it's done. And with The Last Hotspot, once it was done, I worked months on this. I worked almost a year on this film. So once it was done, I was happy that it was done and I didn't want to touch it again. If it was the most terrible film ever made, then I'm not going to go back and fix it up. I'm just going to accept it as it is. And if it was good, then it's good. So far, most people thought it was really funny. And then there's the 5% that thought it was a waste of time. But I'm just, filmmakers like Christopher Nolan, they don't have director's cuts or extended cuts. They just have the film as it is. And I'm kind of the same way. So I didn't finish my timeline. I didn't bake my timeline in a way where I can go back and make changes. I didn't collapse it and condense it. It's just what it is. This is the last thing. On the day that I rendered out this project, the next morning I uploaded it to YouTube and I haven't looked back since. So this is my first time looking at my project file in a very long time, and it is very unorganized. As you can see, I do all my sound editing and all my sound mixing in Premiere. Actually, I do the editing in Premiere, but I don't necessarily mix it all that much in Premiere. I do a lot of work in Audition that you just can't really see here. But so to start off, what should I go over first? So this is the introduction to the film. So we start off with some text, which now that I'm looking back on this, I should have extended this longer, because a lot of people, when they're watching the film, as I read in the comment section, which I do read the comments, so if you guys are posting comments on, wow, this is the dumbest thing I've ever made. I read that. And it makes me happy because I'm going to do better next time. So, when I read the comments, some people, one of the top comments on the film said, oh, they didn't realize what the film was based on because they didn't read the title. And a part of that is because I should have probably let it hang a little longer because this thing is under 5 seconds. In fact, the actual title is only up for about a second and a half, and then it's fading in and fading out. See, look at that. It's in and then it is out. That is not enough time for someone to read it. I was trying to be cinematic and let it be black for a long time, but now that I look at it, I should have probably extended this so we get more of a 18 hours into the Wi-Fi blackout. Fade out. Then cut open. And by the way, a lot of this footage isn't graded. This is the ungraded version of my timeline. So, that's one of the things I learned. And here is my music. This is the score, as you can hear. Composed by the great Jacob Cadmus, who unfortunately isn't composing music for films right now, which is kind of sad, but it's okay because he'll work on some of my other projects if he ever gets back to it. And this right here is actually temp music that I had in the project before I actually had a composer on board, so you could hear the difference. Let's see what the temp music sounded like. And then I sent that to Jacob, and I was like, hey, Jacob, I want something kind of similar. I want some violin, I want some piano. And then he came up with the final score, which is the main theme. Well, not the main theme, but he came up with the score.
Claire, I'm sorry.
And I really like it. I like the score that he came up with. I thought it fit the mood very, very well. And so the way I went about this scene is, first I wanted to use this shot. The shot was filmed 2.5K RAW on the Blackmagic cinema camera. And as we were filming this day, we were really running and gunning. We were really going fast. This was actually the last shot we filmed that night because we had to drive 2 hours out to get to this location. And this was the last shot we filmed because so much stuff was going wrong the first day. All my batteries were dead and everything. So this was the last shot we can get. And I just basically, I told the actor, Ryan, I was like, hey, just go stand out in the distance and look around. And so he didn't really have much direction. He just basically stood there. And then I just ran back and then just got a quick shot. And it actually was a good shot. I wasn't even sure if I was in focus. I didn't pull critical focus or anything. It was just, I was using my kit lens, my $100 kit lens, and I just filmed it really quick. And then when I went home and started doing the editing and looking at the dailies and seeing what I had, I realized, hey, this shot is actually in critical, like it's really in focus. And I shot it raw, and the low light looked good. And I was like, wow, this is a usable shot. It was a little too shaky because I was holding the camera body. I didn't have a rig, but I used warp stabilizer by 1%. I don't think it's actually on here. Is it? No. See, I did that in After Effects, but I warp stabilized it, which, by the way, warp stabilizer works great when you only use it by like 1% or 2%. I hate it when, and this is just my opinion, when you can see someone using warp stabilizer. Most professional films don't use warp stabilizer because they have the budget to not need to use warp stabilizer. So if you want it to look cinematic, unless you're going with something like David Fincher or something that's really artistic, then use warp stabilizer. But in my opinion, I try to stay away from warp stabilizer. So this had warp stabilizer on it, but it was only at 1%, just to get rid of the little jitters. And I've already gone over the color grading tutorial for this, but then I just added some particles, just small things to just make it look more cinematic. And then the reason I added that shot first is because, one, it looks cinematic, and two, I realized, hey, we can go through the entire sequence of him waking up, thinking of Claire, checking to see if he has Wi-Fi, which, by the way, this shot was actually a little tricky because I had to do a 3D track on the television, and I had to get Obama, and then I had to match his words to the voiceover artist that I paid to do, or impersonator that I had to pay to play Obama. So I basically wrote up a script for him to talk about Wi-Fi, and then I had to roto him out and then put junk in the background. Simple things, man. Just this little 4 seconds, actually not even 4 seconds, 2 seconds of Obama took hours to do. Because if you listen, he's like solution about this Wi-Fi apocalypse, and it's something that I'm sure most people didn't catch nor care, but it took a long time and it cost money because I had to pay someone to do an Obama impersonation. And then he walks up, checks to see if there's Wi-Fi, and then he cuts to him outside again, and then it cuts to the title card. And what's funny about this is because when I was editing it at first, back in March of 2015, the first shooting day went so bad that I was curious how I was going to edit the sequence together because none of the shots worked. We were so out of order. And somehow we were able to go back out to this location. So we were able to get the crew and then go back out to this location, and then we filmed all the extra shots. So, for example, this shot was filmed in January, and this shot was filmed in May. So it's really interesting. This shot, we were freezing cold because we were out in the desert and we were freezing. And then in this shot, we were burning hot. So it's funny. And there's a lot of that in this film, actually. In fact, if you go right here, what's really funny is the scene where Anderson is going to go beat up Claire. I'm sorry, not beat up Claire. Going to go beat up the bad guy for killing Claire. This scene was filmed also in, I think February. This was one of the first scenes we filmed. And again, we were freezing. It was really cold and windy. And unfortunately, like Murphy's Law, I lost half the footage. And that was a whole nother story on its own. It was very bad because I spent so much money and time in getting everything ready for this shoot day. So what's funny is this is the last shot that I had. And we had an entire fight scene filmed and everything. And this is the last shot that I had. And we had an entire 6 hours worth of footage just deleted. So nobody knows this, but with some clever color grading and some match moving, and that is my cat. So this shot was filmed in February or January, whenever we started principal photography. And this shot was filmed in August. Nobody knows that. Look at how seamless it is. So January, August. Everything from this point on was filmed in August, months later.
If you live through this, make sure you follow me on Twitter.
And I'm going to be jumping around here sporadically, so sorry if that kind of confuses you, but I guess I'll talk about how I edit the fight sequences, because I get a lot of questions on that. So the way I edit fight sequences, how should I go about that? Because the thing is, with fight sequences, there's not really a particular way to do it. It's just finding your own style and also studying how others do it. For example, anytime I see a fight sequence, I'm always studying how I would do it differently or how I liked the way they did it. For example, the new Captain America movie that's coming out, they came out with a little TV spot with Iron Man, and no, it wasn't. It was Iron Man fighting this Bucky guy or something. I don't really know. I'm not really a Marvel guy besides Spider-Man, like Spider-Man. But he was fighting someone, and then I don't know, Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, that's his name. He like gets out his hand thing and then he blocks the bullet, and then there's a little fight sequence. Obviously, they used a shaky cam and fast cuts to cover up the mistakes, because I'm sure they're dealing with Robert Downey. I'm sure he does his own stunts, but I'm sure he doesn't. And they have to cover up who's the stunt double and who's Robert Downey, and the whole process with that. So I'll study that, and I was like, okay, now I know how to do my fight scenes differently. So now it's just a matter of studying the editing, and then I've been doing fight scenes for a long time. So with this, I knew, I broke some rules, which rules are made to be broken. I broke the 180-degree rule. I'm sure nobody cared nor even noticed. And if you did care or notice, you got a good eye, man. Good job. Props to you. So this is the way I typically do it. And I'm just gonna solo this one so we don't have any sound. So when you're first editing a fight scene, it's most likely going to look bad unless you have top-notch stunt doubles and just a top-notch production crew and just tons of planning. It's going to probably look bad right off the bat because sound really sells how good a fight scene looks. So with this, let's look at it without any sound. So actually, let's rewind it back. And I mean, I'll give myself a slight pat on the back. It looks okay. No, I'm just kidding. That's not even me. That's got to give props to Ryan, the actor. He actually took punches the entire day of filming, which, funny story, he was actually hitting him this entire time. And you're never supposed to make contact when you're fighting for film unless you're professionals and you're doing a grapple or something along that. Whenever you're doing punches, you're never supposed to make contact with that person. And I thought he knew that. And I was looking through the camera the whole time, so I couldn't tell. And so he took some for the team. That punch, or let me see. This punch actually hit him. Not that hard, but it still hit him. So that's why that looked realistic. This punch actually hit him too, as you can see. It doesn't look like it hurt. He's kind of using his palm, luckily. But with some clever sound design, it'll sound like a fist. And then I broke the 180 degree rule here because Brian Blue, this actor, he's on camera left, he's on camera right. And now he's on camera right and he's on camera left. And the thing is with editing is that you just kind of cheat it. See, he's all the way to his right side. You know, he has his head down and he's blocking a punch. And now he's upright and now he's going to deliver a punch to him. And the thing is nobody needs to see him readjust himself. Nobody needs to see him get back up and then get ready to punch him and punch him. You use sound design to cover up and Foley to cover up the editing. So the way I learned is instead of slowing down your fight scene by showing all the continuity, like if he got hit, you know, if we were to actually show him get up, it would look probably something like this. Let's see. Probably look like this. Oops, move that back over. I don't know, it just doesn't look right, at least in my opinion. Let's undo that. So the thing is that you use Foley to cover up your editing because sound is more important than your video most of the time. And so he has his head down, and then in this shot, it's up, and then he delivers a punch. And something that I like to do is, I can't remember where I learned this. Oh, Film Riot. I learned this from Film Riot. So I like to cut out a frame or two between impacts just to kind of sell the punch more. So here, without, actually, this is what it would have looked like. It just doesn't have that fierceness to it. So now that I cut a few frames out right here, it kind of gives it more of a douche. You know, it just makes it look more violent. It literally looks like he hit his face so hard that the camera couldn't capture it because we're filming at 24 frames a second. So it's like, dang, man, that guy really got hit. Like, we can't even see it happen. And another example of clever editing is he's already turned around. Like, he just got punched so hard, he's facing the other way. Like, we can't see his face. And in this next shot, he's upright again. He's about to catch a punch. So that is a huge continuity shift. He is way over here, and then now he's upright, ready to catch a punch. And people either noticed it and they don't care or just flowed because, look. Without any sound, it's kind of noticeable. You're like, hey, is he supposed to be like that? But with sound, you don't care nor notice. Grind it back more.
If you live through this, make sure you follow me on Twitter.
Which is the way I feel editing fight scenes works. And yeah, I'm not going to give away all my secrets because that makes me me. But that's as far as I'll give out now. Just be clever with your editing. I like to use sound to my advantage, and that is that.
If you live through this, make sure you follow me on Twitter.
Now, for example, this was a hard part to edit because, again, things were going wrong, and we had to be careful with, we had to be careful with both actors, but he acts professionally in the Las Vegas area, and we can't. This is a non-union production, so we have to be careful with him. So anything that came with action with this guy, we had to be really careful because we don't want to risk punching his teeth. We would have to pay thousands of dollars for his dentures and things like that. So Ryan, on the other hand, this guy, he's a close friend of mine, and he was willing to take the hits. Although you don't take advantage of that. If you have a cool actor, then that's great. It'll make your production look better, but don't take advantage of the fact that they're trying to tough out the shoot. So with him, we're a little bit more lenient. Like, okay, Ryan, you could take a couple hits and a couple falls because it'll look cool. It'll make up for his lack of being able to get any hits or anything. So this scene was kind of hard because they're moving really, really slow. This scene took a lot of editing and speeding up and time remapping to get it to look any kind of decent. And as an example of that, let's look at the raw footage. Oh, this is a good example. Let's look at the raw footage here. And did I speed this up? I did. So this is at 120. So let's look at it at normal motion, and let's look at the raw footage. Oops. Slow. All right. This is the raw footage here. Oops, let's keep it going. All right, this is what I was dealing with. So that is the raw footage for that. And as you can see, that isn't a lot to work with. It was really slow. We couldn't risk whipping him in the face. So when I Control Z everything, bring it back to where it was, and then after you do some magic, you'll get something like this. And unfortunately, to my taste as the director, this isn't what I envisioned. I envisioned it to be way more gruesome, because that was the whole point of the joke, is this guy whips out a selfie stick, and it's like, what the heck is he doing with a selfie stick? But it's really gruesome. Like, dang, that selfie stick is doing some work and really putting, that selfie stick is like, that's a tough selfie stick. But unfortunately, it kind of, and I wanted it to be an iPhone on the tip of there, but I didn't want to put I had an iPhone 4S, but I still love it, so I didn't want to put it there. And then this was also difficult to edit because, actually, I'm not even going to go into all this. We had enough fighting for now. And the ending, I won't even get into that. This wasn't even supposed to be the final ending. We had another about 2 minutes worth of concluding the film that was supposed to be there, but this location got shut down, and that completely messed up the ending. So I was lucky enough that when we filmed, because again, this was filmed in May, and then we drove back in August to film the ending. So again, this film was filmed like all over the year, like random places throughout the year, and the location was shut down. So luckily, wow, I'm being really repetitive right now. I was able to use this shot because he walked right into the lens.
I guess we'll find out.
And then with some color grading, which they didn't have this Lumetri color panel when I was editing this movie, but with some color grading, just do your thing, make it warm, desaturate it, whatever the heck I did when I was grading this movie, blah, 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 just for your sake. And then when the blacks are crushed like you want it to be, it looks like he's almost walking into blackness. And if we didn't have this shot, I'd be in a pickle because I really wouldn't know how to conclude this movie, because once again, we had another 2 minutes scripted out on what was supposed to happen. All right. What's our time looking like? 25 minutes. So I'll go over a few more things. What would you guys like to see? Oh, wait, you guys can't talk to me because this isn't a live stream. I'll go over this scene really quick. So this is the coffee scene with the homeless guy. And the whole joke behind this was a lot of people love Starbucks, and especially with this generation, and they're always so picky over their Starbucks. Like, I want a frappe, chafe, latte with iced snappe, whatever you get at Starbucks. So that's his whole point is he wants to take a selfie with his Starbucks, and like I don't even remember what I wrote for his character to say. What did he say?
Post a picture of my Starbucks. I got an extra hot soy with half squirt of vanilla and a half squirt of extra
And I am lagging. Sorry about that, guys.
sugar-free cinnamon. With half squirt of vanilla and a half squirt of extra sugar-free cinnamon. The fact no one knows it's just killing me.
And actually, something that's kind of funny. Actually, I can't show you guys. That sucks. Something that's funny is if I can find the raw footage, if we have time, I'll try and find it. This scene, obviously, there's the obvious visual effects, the clouds that I put in there. And this smoke is all practical, which always makes the scene look better. Whenever you can do something practical or do some sort of special effects on set, it makes it look better. And we were lucky enough that we had a windy day, which during production, that wasn't fun because we were freezing, especially him being in a tank top. Once again, Las Vegas desert, January, freezing cold, windy. So he wasn't too happy about that. And luckily, nobody could see, but my mom was under here, and she was just kicking dirt like as hard as she can. And there's actually a shot where she sticks her head up right here, and she's just covered in dirt. If I can find it, I'll try and show you guys. And the way I went about editing this scene, well, I won't really show you guys the performance, but here we go. Actually, this was the first cut. He was supposed to walk from the bus, and then it'll smash cut to him at that apocalyptic wasteland area, but I did not like that. So we start here. And then this was a visual effect. I just had a black solid fade out, so it kind of appears like he's walking out of darkness. And then the way I went about this was really tricky to color grade with his shot because his skin tones matched this wall because it just did because he's Caucasian and he's, well, actually, no. Ryan, he's half Mexican, half white, whatever. I'm a Caucasian, whatever. Anyways, so it was really hard to grade this, and what I had to do is I had to go inside of After Effects and desaturate this part and saturate the oranges and yellows just to get out his skin tones. And then I did another grade on top of that. And it was just, the grade is still not great. Whenever I watch it on different TVs that aren't calibrated, it's really bad. And what can I say? You learn from your mistakes. I'm partially colorblind, so that's my only excuse that I can give myself. So forgive me. I sound like Batman when I do that. Or I can sound like Bane. Okay, I should do this whole review like Bane. No, I'm just kidding. Now's not the time for Batman jokes. Speaking of which, what do you guys think of Batman v Superman? No, I'm just kidding. We don't have time for that. All right, let's see. What else can we go over? Well, here's the fight scene for that. I guess I'll just show you guys the... Oh, no. We don't have time for fighting. I guess here's a way to go over some of the sound design that goes into some of this. So, let's see if we can... I'm going to make this screen really small. So here's a look at some of the sound design that goes into it. Obviously, you can see a lot of swishes, a lot of punching. And the thing is with sound design is you never want to just, well, okay, I'm not going to be that guy and says never. You could do whatever you want. It's film, it's art. But what I learned is I don't like to use single sound effects. You know, if you buy a library of fight sound effects, sometimes what I see people do is they just throw on one punch sound. For example, they'll do something like this. And that doesn't sound realistic whatsoever. But they feel like because they put a punch sound effect there, it's fine. But that's not really how it works. There's so many clips here because I really like to take my time when it comes to fight scenes and really do some decent. I'm not a sound person, so I can't do some really intense sound design. I don't want to call myself a sound designer. That'd be an insult to real sound designers out there. So I like to mix everything. You need to add different layers. So essentially you have your nat sound that we recorded on set with the Rode NTG3, so that's decent audio already. And then I add in my punch sound, and then I add in some Foley of his jacket when he gets kicked in the gut, and then I add in ADR of him grunting, going like ugh, like that, and then I add in more Foley of dirt being kicked up, and then I add in more Foley, and then on top of all that, I EQ it, and then I add some reverb to get it to match this distant wasteland, add some echo in there. And then on top of that, I added wind sounds. And then on top of everything, you drain it out. You don't drain it out, but you could add the music on top, and then there you go. And then here's a good example. When he stands up right here, you could really hear it echo. So if you, actually, I don't think you guys can even hear it that well. I think this recording is messing up the sound, but it's really echoey when he stands up, and that is just due to taking the time to add the proper reverb, add the proper EQing and compression, just to make it sound more professional. And then his footsteps are definitely Foley. I had to go out to a local skate park when no one was there and film a lot of Foley in the dirt. I also added crow sounds, just sounds of dirt falling. You know, Foley really, really does take your film to the next level, even though it is a buttload of work. And nobody really noticed. The whole point is if you do Foley right, no one's gonna notice it. And I feel like that's the thing with most filmmaking. If you edit your film good, no one should notice the editing. If you color grade your film really good, unless you're a filmmaker and you're looking at that stuff, the average audience shouldn't notice it because they should be so involved in the story, and then the color grading or the sound just complements it. So if somebody notices it and it pulls them out of the story because it's really too in your face, then that's not good. So that's the way I think about sound editing and ADR and Foley. Just make sure that's not too in your face to the point where someone's like, wow, these guys went ham in the ADR room or the Foley room. Like, this is some obvious Foley. Then you probably didn't do your job right. But if it's just underneath everything and it's not noticeable, it's just kind of there, then you did your job right. And then when you just add all that together in the final film with the music on top, you should get something like this. And that is what we have for that. And so the last thing that I'll go over, because we're looking like, this is about a 33-minute video so far, so I will go over how I determine performances whenever I'm editing something. So let's see, I'll go over this one. So this here is just the kind of the meat of the movie between the boyfriend Anderson, McLovin, and Claire. And this is Taylor. She is a local actress in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you guys need an actress, feel free to contact her. Message, comment on the video. If you do, for some reason, need her contact info, I'm sure she'd be willing to act in your stuff. Same with this guy. This guy is Ryan Kruthov. I feel like he did a really good job, and especially this is his first time acting, so kudos to you. And look at that dirt face. Good job, man. Alright, so actually, I'm not going to waste time playing through this. I'm just going to show you guys how I determine which ones I like to use, or which takes I like to use. So, let's see. Second arguing scene. If I can find it. Oh, guys, we might be out of luck. I might not be able to find it. Oh, wait, it's all over here. Okay, so usually what I do is I have either a separate sequence or I do it way off in the distance in the timeline. Is I just like to lay out all my raw footage, and then I just go through and pick out all the different takes that I like, and then I move them over to the side, and then out of those, I find which ones flow the scene better, and then I move those over to the final cut, which after the final cut is done, then I nest it and then bring it into the final timeline. As you can see, I didn't really do it with these because don't judge me. But yeah, so let's see here. Let's look at some of their different performances. You guys can study and see how I chose different ones. So let's see what this performance is. Should probably unsolo those.
Tweeted about me even when it was a real man would have loved me, posted photos of me, and tweeted about me even when it was at Valentine's Day. But you're not a real man. You're pathetic.
And see, when I look at that, I think, okay, that was a really good performance. So from here to about here, I really liked. I just didn't like the way she said pathetic.
But you're not a real man. You're pathetic.
It's like, you're pathetic. As the director, that's not what I was going for. So I'd keep that, and then I'd go through again.
Miss Claire?
I'm not your bae anymore.
And then we have other takes of her doing that.
Look at us, Claire. What are we?
But, you know, we don't need to go through and find all those. So I would just go through. I'm like, okay, I like this one. Then you could even go through, label it to be a different color, like violet. So I know that's one of the ones that I like. And let's go through some of Ryan's performances.
You're just another follower and love me. But you're not a real man. You're pathetic.
Stop.
You're just another follower who broke my heart and ripped it to shreds.
Babe, please.
And that take actually made it into the film.
Don't call me bae. I'm not your bae anymore.
What are you saying?
And here's another example of coverage. And usually for coverage, I get a close-up and a wide shot. This was a bit tricky because this guy, and I can say this because I'm good friends with him, he is really tall. He is like, what's a good reference? Man, whenever I'm being recorded, I can't come up with the jokes at all. Oh, well. He's as tall as Slender Man, if anybody remembers Slender Man. He's really tall. And so there's a big height difference between him and the other actors. He's 6 foot something. Taylor's like 4 foot something. So it was kind of difficult framing them, but I had to cover that up with editing too. But here's one of the meats of his performances also.
Because you know what? Let me find a McDonald's up here with some free Wi-Fi, and I might as well get a McFlurry with it because I'm sweating my ass off.
A real man could have figured out a way. A real man would have loved me, posted photos of me, and tweeted about me even when it's not Valentine's Day. But you're pathetic. You're not a real man.
Stop.
Ooh, actually, I really like that. Hang on a second. Hang on. See, this is usually what I do. I go through, and I'm like, oh, I like that beat. So I wasn't aware of this. I must have not seen this because I would have probably chose this to be in the film. This is why you need a professional editor, guys.
Stop.
Okay, I wish I put that in the film instead. I mean, he is a little soft. I didn't get focus all the way, but I'm willing to sacrifice optical quality for performance, which I feel should always be the case. We also get something like Batman v Superman, where it looked beautiful, and the acting was good too, but the story was... Anyways, and that's just my opinion. I'm just a little salty over that movie. But with the camera move, I kind of eased in a little bit, implying she just sparked something within him. Like, wow, I'm pissed. Like, okay, stop. Like, I'm gonna do something. I don't know. Man, I really wish I chose that shot. Okay, and then I'll just take that, and then I'll bring it. Actually, I'll show you guys how I would do it. So I'll just Control-C, go to the beginning, and then I'll find where he says that.
We're done.
Babe, please.
Stop.
See, oh man, now that I see that other take, I would have much rather used that. Man. Oh, and here's some of the color grading that I did. Yep, color. So what I would do is I would just take this and move it over just so I can test it. I bring that over the one over here, paste it, bring this over, put it on top. Let's see what it looks like.
You're pathetic.
And I'll probably copy and paste my grade too, just so I can see what it would look like.
Pathetic.
Stop.
Oh. Wait, where's that coming from? Oh, I forgot. I have stuff down here. Actually, don't worry about any of this. I'm just doing this for myself now. I'm curious to see what this would have looked like.
You're pathetic. You're just another.
Bring that up.
You're pathetic.
Stop.
You're just an.
Oh my gosh, Justin, you are so dumb. This looks so much better. Oh, man, you guys are witnessing my live reaction to this. Damn, I really wish I used this shot instead. Damn
You're
it.
not a real man. You're pathetic.
I mean, that doesn't really flow. I should probably move this over, but...
About me even when it's not Valentine's Day. But you're not a real man. You're pathetic.
Stop.
You're just another.
And you could even get a little bit of a lens flare hitting on the top. I mean, something about the angle. I like that it goes in, but man, if only I had perfect focus too. Wow, I'm just gonna keep this here just because I don't want to mess with my original timeline. But still, I'm upset I didn't find that earlier. That's the thing with editing, guys. And that's typically how it goes. I find my favorite takes, move them over here, then once they're over here, I put them in here, and then I start cutting them up, and then once the entire cut is finished, I take my entire sequence, dynamic link to Adobe Audition by just right-clicking, going to Adobe Audition, or exporting it as an XML, going to Adobe Audition. And then I would just do my EQing, level, de-essing, compression, just getting it to sound as good as it can, because we're using the Rode NTG3 going into the Zoom H4n, and the preamps for the Zoom H4n aren't the greatest, so there's a lot of finessing. There's a lot of just sounds that we didn't want in the mix going in there, and it just took a lot of work to do the sound mixing for me, and I'm not even that satisfied with it. I was learning a lot as I was doing it. I wish I had knew what I was supposed to do and then executed it, as opposed to trial and erroring it all the way through the film, because as I got better at my sound mixing while the film was coming to an end, so it's like all the stuff that I was doing up front sounded pretty bad. So that's what I have to say about that. But, you know, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to go through this entire project, obviously. You guys get the the drift of it. And then I'll just go through and then add in little things. Obviously, this isn't the final grade, but, you know, I'll just go in and be like, all right, I'll look through for stuff. I'm like, I want to add Wi-Fi. So then I'll just add Wi-Fi right here. I don't even know if anybody caught that, but I'll just spray paint Wi-Fi. Heck, I don't even think anybody caught the Wi-Fi in the bus. Let's see. Does anybody catch that? Did anybody catch that at all? Wi-Fi is home? Come on, guys. Did anybody catch this? Maybe nobody did. That took me like 45 minutes to put that there. Maybe it was a waste of time. I like being one of those filmmakers that just puts random things there. And then, like, if I ever directed a superhero movie, I would put so many little hints of other superheroes in the movie just to mess with people that have nothing to do with the film. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I still take film seriously. Even though it's fun, you still gotta take it seriously sometimes. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was somewhat informative for you guys. Again, I wouldn't recommend making your timeline look like this. This is just absolutely atrocious, and do not ever give a professional editor this timeline. It's just, the only reason this timeline looks like this is because it's cool for Instagram pictures. No, I'm just kidding. But just, you know, have your own workflow. You guys know your workflow, and that's all I have to really say about it. This video lasted a long time, 45 minutes. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys would like to watch the film again, it is in the description. And we will have some other surprises coming for you guys. Again, there's a shortage of films coming from the channel because I am just in pre-production for so many different projects right now that I cannot really talk about. But you know, if you want to make quality stuff, it all starts with pre-production, and that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on social media. My Instagram is at Justin Melson, just my first and last name. My Twitter is at jmelson with like 3 or 2 N's at the end. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.